Hi, welcome to this listening video. We are going to look at ways that might help you improve your listening skills. We'll start with the basic skills you need for listening. First, you need some predictive skills. Then after starting to listen, you need to extract specific information. You need to think about getting the general picture, extracting detailed information. You will also need to deduce the meaning of unfamiliar words that you might come across. Now get ready for listening. There are certain things you need to do in order to get yourself ready for listening. In order to help yourself improve your listening skills, you need to find the audio content that is appropriate for you. It should be interesting and useful. You also need to create a purpose for your listening. For example, you might find information about something that you need, or just get the latest news about something that happened in your country or in the world. In all cases, there should be a purpose. When you are in the classroom, your teacher will create the purpose for you through some questions. But when you are studying by yourself, then you need to create a purpose for yourself. The first thing you'll do while listening, or before listening, is predicting. What do you need to predict? Create any expectations related to the topic. Familiarize yourself with the topic by creating expectations and recalling your background knowledge. Thus, you will activate your prior knowledge about the topic. This way, you create a willingness in your mind to accept the information, process it, understand it. Here is an example of a chart, a very simple one, that might help you do your predictions. It's called the Kwl chart. Many of you are familiar with it. The first column, I know. Here comes the prediction. You write things that you think you know about the topic. And then you can carry on with this chart while listening and after listening. So, while predicting in the pre-listening phase, you just need the first two columns. The first one, you write things that you already know, and in the second one, you just think about what are your learning needs, what's the purpose of this listening, what do you want to learn through that? And the last part will be filled in after you finish your listening. It's what you've learned from that. The second example is very similar to this one, but with a slight difference. In the first column, you write, again, things that you know. In the second column, you write things you're not sure of. And in the third column, you write things you would like to know. You are setting some kind of purpose here for your listening. Finished setting expectations, predicting. Now you start listening. And you start to extract specific information. You need to direct your comprehension through the use of specific tasks, like filling in a chart, completion exercises, choosing an audio material that's likely to refer to specific information. For example, the audio material can be the weather forecast, or giving directions, This kind of material has a lot of specific information that you might refer to, and it will make a nice practice for you. Here is an example. The topic is Friday's weather report. Listen and try to note down the specific information you feel is important for your understanding.
Well, for those of you who went out today, I don't have to tell you it was clear but muggy for most of the state, with the high temperatures in the low to mid-90s. The city of Elkview had the high for the day of 97 degrees, and that's hot. I'm glad I'm working indoors today. For those of you planning outdoor activities tomorrow, you can expect fair skies for most of Saturday, with temperatures in the high 90s. However, things might change by Saturday evening with a storm front moving in. We can expect light, scattered showers over the northern part of the state, bringing slightly cooler temperatures in the 80s, but this rain should taper off by mid-Sunday morning. It will be partly cloudy for most of the morning, but these clouds should move out by mid-afternoon. Skies should be clear Sunday night for those wanting to catch a glimpse of the partial lunar eclipse. It should start at 10:47. And that's all for today's weather.
Now, for such a topic, that's an example of pre-listening activity or a pre-listening question that you might ask yourself. What's the weather like in your hometown during different seasons of the year? You might think about temperatures, about humidity, or any other weather aspects. You might also think about Celsius and Fahrenheit, if you have an idea about it. So the Fahrenheit scale is used to calculate temperatures in the United States. Try to use the internet to find out more about how to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius and about the people who invented these scales. These are examples of the things you might think of as a pre-listening activity for such a topic. Now, listening for specific information is a very important skill as well. Look at this question. What were the high temperatures for Friday in the state? You have three options. A, 85 to 90 degrees. B, 91 to 95 degrees. And C, 96 to 99 degrees. Notice, we are looking for a number. And that's what specific details means. It can be a number, it can be a name. It's something very specific. Another example here, about what time should skies clear on Sunday? The alternatives are A, around 10 a.m., B, around 3 p.m., and C, around 6 p.m. Again, we are looking for a number. More specifically here, it's time. Next example. What is Saturday's evening's weather forecast for the state? A light rain over the entire state, heavy showers, or some rain. Again, the information required here is very specific. It's either light rain, heavy showers, or some rain. When you listen for general understanding, you need to focus on main ideas mentioned. You need to focus on the message and the purpose of that message. What does the speaker intend to tell you? One basic question, what point is the speaker trying to make through what he's saying? It's usually found at the beginning of the listening passages. So from the beginning, you can identify the general idea of what you are listening to. While the details are usually dispersed here and there, throughout the lecture or any audio material you're listening to. Therefore, you may ignore some details as they are not necessary to our general understanding of the message that's being put across by the speaker. Here is an example of a question seeking general understanding. What was Friday's weather like? The alternatives are: was it fair and humid? A. B. Was it warm and dry? And C. Was it hot and partly cloudy? This represents your general understanding of the whole material, because all along the listening, the speaker has been trying to give you details about Friday's weather and what it was like. There are some communicative tasks for general understanding that you may use to check your general understanding. Here are some examples. You may use some jigsaw exercises. You may set questions for yourself. You may fill in forms. You may write a summary once you finish listening. Or you can write about a similar topic. It can be a response to what you heard, especially in case of possibilities to send letters. If you hear a complaint, then you can send a response to the person who was complaining to give him information that he needs. When it comes to finding details, you need to be more careful, because details do not exist, as we previously said, in just one part of the listening. They are dispersed here and there, so you need to depict them. Now, an example of a question: what event will occur on Sunday evening? Alternative A: the Earth's shadow will cover the moon. Alternative B: colorful lights will appear in the sky. And alternative C: shooting stars will be visible. And there are different tasks that can help you find out about the details, like note-taking, which is probably the most effective one and the basic one as well. In order to find any details, in order to be able to answer any questions, you need to take notes while listening. You can do some gap filling. You can retell stories that focus on specific details in the audio material. You can design dialogues where you can discuss some details. Interviews can work as well here. A dictocomp activity can also work. You may make a whole new composition using your notes, but in your own words. And thus you're killing two birds with one stone. You're practicing listening and practicing writing as well. Probably the simplest activity is the WH questions. You can just list the WH questions: who, what, where, why, and how. Whatever of these questions is involved in that listening. You can put it in the form of a hand graph. Or you may just rewrite a composition about the same topic using your notes and in your own language. Something like dictocomp that we've mentioned previously. The most important skill is to deduce meaning of unfamiliar words. It's very important because sometimes there are keywords that are unfamiliar to you. If you don't understand those keywords, the comprehension of the whole message will be a problem. So if you come across any words that may hinder your understanding, you need to use that skill. Guess the unfamiliar from the familiar, from the context, from the words around that word. For example, in the listening we just heard, there are two keywords which may be unfamiliar to some of you. The first one is fair, which means clear. We anticipate fair weather for tomorrow's barbecue, the speaker said. Remember, he was describing a rainy, cloudy weather. So when we anticipate fair weather for tomorrow's barbecue, we are going outside for a barbecue, so we need a clear weather. We may not be able to organize any barbecue under the rain. Second word is glimpse, which means a quick look. The speaker said, I only caught a glimpse of the newspaper this morning, but it looks like the weather will improve this weekend. I caught, to catch something, is a brief action. A glimpse where? Of the newspaper. So, catching, which is a brief action, a glimpse of the newspaper, of something related to weather, gives us insights and helps us understand that glimpse may be a quick look at something. Actually, the speaker did not need to read a whole research in order to find about what the weather will look like next weekend. It really requires a glimpse at a newspaper. When you finish your listening, you still have things to do and you still have other skills to practice. For example, in such a topic, you may use a local newspaper or a TV news program or the internet to find a weather forecast of your area. Then, you can give a summary for the next 3 days. What dress would you suggest for going out in this weather? For example, you may use a local newspaper, TV news program, or the internet to find a weather forecast of your area. Then you can give a summary for the next 3 days. What dress would you suggest for going out in this weather? Like shorts, a warm jacket, sandals, raincoat, etc. Are there activities you would suggest doing or even postponing due to weather conditions? Let's now move to some practice and try to answer those questions. 1. What are hurricanes? 2. Where do they happen? 3. Why do they happen? 4. How do they affect people? And finally, 5. What can people do? Listen and try to take notes.
Natural disasters.
Scientists understand a lot about the environment, but they don't understand everything. Every year, there are big and small disasters in different parts of the world. Some of these happen very often, but some of them are a big shock. How do these natural disasters affect humans? Can we do anything about them?
Hurricanes. What are they? Tropical storms with strong winds. They start at sea and can travel a long distance. They have different names in different places. Hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean, typhoons in the Pacific Ocean, tropical cyclones in the Indian Ocean and around Australasia. Tornadoes or whirlwinds are similar but begin over land.
Why do they happen? The water evaporates from the warm sea. This condenses in the atmosphere. More and more hot, wet air rises up. It becomes a strong wind.
Where do they happen? Over the warm parts of oceans. Tornadoes are common in parts of the USA, Australia, and Japan.
How do they affect people? They can affect ships, blow down houses, cause floods, and disrupt traffic.
What can people do? Scientists can usually track hurricanes, but they cannot stop them.
That's the end of our listening lesson. If you want further practice, you may resort to that link, www.esl-lab.com, which is an educational website which provides plenty of listening quizzes, resources, self-study guide for you, study handouts, vocabulary quizzes as well. Thank you for your attention. I hope you go back to these strategies, you use them, and try to get the most benefit possible.